Thank you. First off, I've got a bit of a favour. It's my mate Rev's birthday, and I haven't said happy birthday to him yet, so I just wondered if I could get everybody to say happy birthday, and I can send it to him. So, 3, 2, 1.
Happy birthday!
Lovely, thank you. That's a win. Right, so my talk, what have we got? We've got media is killing social media. And this is definitely a rant, but it's also a bit of a plea. So just go with it, and I'll probably get a bit red, a bit angry, and probably get quite a lot of people disagreeing, especially with the media lot in the room. But I'd love to talk about it more because we haven't got to a set answer yet, but I think it's the type of discussion that we really need to be having. So I don't know if anybody has also seen going around on Twitter is thisisnotaninsight.tumblr.com. If you haven't, go check it out. They're basically pulling out some of the worst, most obvious slides that have been presented this week and completely trolling them. So I've made sure that I've got a big set of rules and then 4 distinct sections so I can try and get on that Tumblr. And if you do the math, then hopefully we'll have 40 different things that you could tweet about. So 4 different sections, going to talk a bit about where we are and then talk about what you can do about it, how you can start thinking about your briefs, how you can then start getting to ideas, and then how you can start implementing them. So where are we? How did we get here? And get ready for this transition. Look at that. Come on. So, how did we get here? Why has this massive boom been here? It's all been because of data, and we've already heard loads of times this week about how everything is all about data. Data's fueled the growth of this company. It's changed the process of this. Isn't it brilliant? Because now there's all these data analysts here. All of the budget is now shifting towards data and programmatic, and it is brilliant. And it's been a key part to the growth of BBH Live, and that we've put data analysts right in the heart of our team. They're in our leadership team, and it's completely changed the process of how we work and how we get to strategy, because we now think data first instead of just thinking brand first, which was how I was brought up at BBH to think when you get to strategy. And so it has completely changed everything because everything is now measurable, and that's fantastic. There's nobody saying that this isn't a great thing. But what it's also exposed is the secret and this little lie that we keep telling ourselves, which is it's also shown that nobody likes advertising. It's also shown that people don't want to spend time with it, and we finally got proof that when we thought people were sitting there in front of the TV, captivated by our 30-second commercials, we've now got proof when they scroll past them, and it's completely blown everybody's minds. And we need to start waking up to the fact that this is the new reality that we're in, and this is the industry that we're working in. And so what can we do about it? Because this is the real industry that we work in. The majority of what we create is skipped, blocked, people paying to not have it. Everyone here subscribes to Netflix and loves that there aren't any ads there, or just obviously ignoring it. And this is the largest boycott of anything in human history. There's 800 million people who have installed ad blockers, and we're not waking up to that fact. We need to start thinking about how we can start engaging with our audiences again. And that's because we're here at Social Media Week, but really it should just be called Media Week, because social media isn't very social anymore. And when you think about this cycle that we've been on, this journey of when it first came out, everybody was obsessed with engagement, and we thought, oh, how can we be relevant? How can we be topical? We need to think about what our audience like and create content for that. And that was fine. And then Facebook fucked us. And then they went, what we'll do is you're going to have to pay to reach them. And then there was a huge sigh of relief in the industry when everyone went, oh, brilliant, we can just spam people again. We don't have to think about trying to create work that people actually like. And so we've got to this place where we're not making work that is social anymore. We're just putting stuff in front of people's eyes. And I think that we're at a really, really key turning point in the industry where There's going to be 2 strands of work that's going to come out. And different agencies and different budgets. And it's going to be focused on efficiency or effectiveness. And that is going to be a whole new strip of industry which is focused on ad tech and programmatic and very, very data-driven versus thinking about pure creativity and fame. And for me, that's where we then start getting into all the debates that you've heard this week and heard at all the other conferences and in the industry, which is it's a big war between automation and craft, between robots and people, between heads and hearts. And ultimately, where you get to with the work is basically going, there's one strand of work which is, oh, quick, can you see me? Have you got your, oh no, you've already scrolled past. And I've lost your attention, versus where we all want to get to, I think, why we're all marketeers at the start of the day, which is I want to create work that people want to share and spend time with. And obviously, I'm not anti-data, I'm not anti-programmatic, even with a typo. But this is about how can we try and use these tools correctly and creatively. So, first part, theory. How can you get to a better brief? Why are we here? People are spending fucking shitloads on social. That's why we're here. That's why there's been this huge boom. A lot of that has been driven by an increase in direct response. So it used to be, a few years ago, it used to be 60-40 split between brand and DR. That's now gone to 50-50. Why has it gone to 50-50? Because DR is so much more measurable. You can see all the impacts and you can see all the actions. The problem is that we've seen those same metrics and those same actions and those same measurements been transposed from direct response advertising over to more brand-led and campaign-led advertising. And what that means is that we've then become focused on how can we get to the most media-efficient work, how can we lower the cost per view, how can we increase view-through rates, instead of thinking how effective is our work. And the best place where this is shown, especially in the world where I spend a lot of my time, is looking at view-through rates, which is it's become the new metric that we're all obsessed with. And there's a really funny thing when you start obsessing with a metric is you then just start obsessing how you can game it. And the real way to game a view-through rate is to create a video that's 4 seconds long. And then you'll drive it through, it'll go through the roof. Second best way to improve view-through rates. Stop targeting millions and millions of people because your view-through rate will go down because you're not targeting people who are interested in it. It's not rocket science. But if you want to make view-through rate as the main metric for your campaign, if that's success, just do that. Just ignore any other part of creativity. Because that is what Facebook tell you, isn't it? Make it shorter, put the messaging up front, make sure the logo's up front, and just put it all there before people scroll past. Now, when I read that, that sounds like a banner ad to me. And this is the space where we're being pushed into. And it's not just creative best practice that's being pushed there. It's actually being pushed there out of the media buy as well, which is all about reach and frequency, because the holy grail was, oh God, we don't have to start thinking about how we engage. We can also just take the same media buying practices that we've got elsewhere and just chuck them into the social channels. And what that means is I can just spam you. And if I can just spam you and make sure that I'm going to reach as many people as possible, then all the algorithms don't optimize towards who likes this the most. It optimizes to, I need to try and reach all of my audience. And that's then where you start getting a complete disconnect between the type of work that is favored by the algorithms versus the type of work that is favored by your audience. And the weird thing about all of this, I think, the most hilarious thing, is when you actually look at Facebook Awards, it's not about 3-second videos. It's about big emotional storytelling, using different formats, using different metrics and tactics, but it isn't about very, very short-form video. Please go and check out the Facebook Awards and just see for yourself what they've chosen. And that, to me, takes us to a place, and this is rule number 1, which is basically choose super short or choose super relevant. They've got different jobs, and we're not being honest enough with ourselves to decide the difference. You've got to make a choice between, is the goal of this work just about passive consumption? Is it just about, I want to get a response, I'm trying to put something in the back of someone's head, or do I want to try and engage people? And there's different jobs for them. So super short is basically, don't kid yourselves, make a banner ad. And I think that's what a lot of the creative examples, when you see short form video storytelling, when you see 3 second, 6-second video, the majority of that work is essentially just a banner ad. I've seen banner ads, banner storyboards that go on longer than some of this short form video that we're trying to sell. This isn't to say that they don't have a part. You know, there's a reason why banners still persist, even though everybody hates them, because they do a job within comms. But the reason and the work that we get most excited about isn't in this space. And I don't think when we look forward to the future of talent in the industry, where creatives will want to spend their time is within this space. I think they will want to spend it trying to create really super relevant work. And that is just going back to where we've always been, which is thinking about how can I try and create something that people want to spend time with. And when you do that, is the most basic thing that you enter when you get into a creative industry is you'll see your view-through rates go up. You'll start to get fame, and you'll see those brand metrics start to shift. Because social media is like every other platform, which is when you start looking at when you look at the goals of any campaign, this is from the seminal long and short of it work from the IPA, which is when you look at any campaign and the main metric is fame, it drives up every other metric. And so we shouldn't get confused that this is a different kind of media channel when it's just the comms channel. If you focus on fame, all of your other metrics will go up. Number 3, and this is possibly the most obvious one in the presentation, but again, through reach and frequency, we so often get lost in it. It's just about target your target. Who are you trying to reach? Because I think personally, I've found that the conversations that we're having with clients, with media agencies, and internally, is we've stopped asking this question, which is why would I watch this? Why would I spend time with it? Because we're falling back on the assumption and the crutch that it's being put in front of people. Instead of thinking of it like an opt-in media and pretending you don't have paid reach, we're just going, well, how can we just make sure we optimize the first 3 seconds, then we're fine. And where we need to get back to is we need to rely, yes, we can rely on paid media, but we need to get into the creative mindset of back what it was like when everybody was trying to jump on the Super Bowl and think about how can we try and earn people's attention and not just go, right, we're going to put it in front of them and then see what the results are. And obviously, with all of that, you can then do all of your clever data and retargeting and using programmatic and all of those different things to land other messages. It's just how can you try and get people's interest up front? Because as soon as you've got a qualified view, as soon as you've got a qualified lead, then all of your other efficiencies for media are going to go through the roof. So how can we try and think about it differently? How can we try and get rewind back 10 years and think, if we didn't have paid media, what would this brief look like? Then, when we get into the actual creative process, third most obvious slide in this presentation, primacy of the idea. Biggest indicator of success. This is from the IPA social work. So from all awarded effective communications, what's the biggest change in any of the work? The originality idea. Don't have a shit idea. It's the biggest change out of all of this. I always find it hilarious when you do post-campaign analysis. When you go, the campaign didn't go very well, it must have been the creative. The campaign went very well because the media targeting was so bloody good. It's utterly ridiculous, and there's no escaping this. And this is partly, we've got into this space again because of the platforms, because we've got these self-serve platforms which allow anybody to put creative on there. And we need to start thinking back into why would somebody spend time with us? Now, going back to the first point, is the best thing that we've now got is we've got more behavioral data than ever before about our audience. This isn't about commerce data. This isn't about media data. This is about what are people actually doing on the internet. We can put in what they're searching, liking, posting, creating, commenting, all of these different things. All of these are creative leaping points for you to try and get to somewhere interesting, because this can completely change what your brief is about. Yet so much of what I've seen, and again growing up at BBH, what you don't really understand is when you start from just what you want to talk about as a brand, you lose what all of this richness of what the audience are actually doing and actually spending their time with. And you get to really interesting nuggets. And this is about really trying to deep dive as a strategist, as a planner, as a creative, and figure out what it is your audience are watching. We spend so much time with loads and loads of data of saying, this is where our audience are, this is where they're spending their time, but not enough on what is the content that they are actually watching there. And you need to get beyond stuff like this. Sneezing Panda is so bloody old, it's embarrassing, it's up here. And everybody loves this, but this is not an insight. What you need to get to is you need to get net literate. You need to start thinking that if all of our audience, with even my granddad's on Instagram now, you need to start thinking about what are they actually spending their time with and what are the communities and the in-jokes and the niche things that they are sharing. All of us in this room share memes and emojis every day, yet they never go into our briefs. And we try to separate this world of where our audience are spending time and buying things from what they're actually consuming and how they're behaving. And everyone is now an internet geek, and we just need to start putting that into our creative briefs, because that's where you're going to get the richness and that's where you're going to get the relevancy. And once you've done all that, don't then try and force in some horrendous rational messaging, because again, let's take it back to proven IPA data about the most successful campaigns. The most successful campaigns are built on emotion, not about rational messaging of this is why you should go and buy this thing. Don't fall into the trap that just because you're trying to whack something shorter that it needs to be rational messaging. You still need to follow all of the guidelines and thoughts that we've had in advertising before. So, you then put this into, how can you then try and put this actually into practice? This is the biggest thing that I think that us as marketeers and myself personally has been the biggest issue with our industry ever since paid got introduced into social media, is we've just got lazy. We've got lazy with briefing. We've got lazy thinking that our audience are, that we can just spam them and put things in front of them. But we've also got lazy by listening to the wind tunnel of what all this different advertising performance data is telling us. There's a reason why the majority of performance data on Facebook tells you that people are skipping past videos, branded videos, because the majority of branded videos are shit. And if you put yourself in the same class as everybody else, then you're just going to fall into the same performance data as everybody else. If you think that you're investing in trying to create something different, try and create something to stand out, then you need to ignore the poor performance of other campaigns and think about what's your own data and what you're trying to achieve. Because otherwise we get sucked into the same wind tunnel. We get sucked into the same wind tunnel which says, just think about it being audio off, put loads of titles up. Because then when you're scrolling through, you look like everybody else. And that's the wind tunnel you've got to try and ignore. And this is the part where you actually realize listening to data can take you down the wrong place as well. I don't know if anybody has seen the replication crisis that's currently going on within the science publishing field, which is, it was published in the scientific journal Nature last year, where they found that 70% of scientists have failed to reproduce someone else's study. That's in clinical conditions. When they try and reproduce their own study, 50% of them have failed to achieve the same results. And that's science. That's not marketing. That's proper science. And what we do is we'll put a campaign out there and go, what's our learnings? Okay, let's never do that again. Let's always do this. And we think that, that for some reason it's within these weird clinical conditions, that culture hasn't changed, that the news hasn't changed, that there wasn't a hurricane last week, that Trump hasn't said something weird, that there hasn't been above it was amazing news about someone getting pregnant and then terrible news about Trump tweeting again. We think that we can try and replicate all of these same conditions every time from quarter to quarter to month. But if science can't do it, then what hope do we have about getting learnings from a Nielsen brand study and going, right, this is now what we're going to do forever? We need to start putting the data into context and use it alongside our gut instinct and use it alongside our experience and not just get sucked into what everyone always wants to do. And that's the biggest thing I think I've seen over the development over the last five or 6 years is the same media plans coming back again and again. And for some reason, the advent of self-serve advertising on social platforms where there are set formats has led to the decline of creative media planning. You see the same lines go in with the same formats, and where basically creativity is reduced to filling in a box. And media planning can be as creative as creative ideas, but it's completely disappeared from the landscape. So when you next get your media plan, come back, and it's probably going to be in an Excel file. Ask for it in a PowerPoint. If it goes in a PowerPoint, they've had to think about some boxes, because in Excel, the boxes are already filled in. You need to start pushing back and being honest as an industry about this group deal that all the media agencies are buying, and just call it outright. Ask, is this part of the discount you're getting? Don't get sucked into just doing the latest platform update and just thinking about, oh, can we get the amazing beta out? The amount of times I've done alphas and betas and then there isn't the right measurement in place, and the thing doesn't even work anyway. The only people you're helping are the platforms. And just check, I saw a media plan this morning where they'd literally copied and pasted from last time. And that completely ties into this, is that there's so much more to the internet than social platforms. There's so much more to social media than social channels. And for some reason, we've forgotten about all these amazing communities. When was the last time anybody did a blogger outreach campaign? That's just completely dropped off. We just go, oh, let's just deal with influencers. Why aren't we thinking about how to extend it out beyond these social platforms, beyond these formats, and starting to be more creative with our media planning? And this is obviously the last rule when you put up 10 ridiculous rules for a talk, which is there are no rules, because if you just listen to the data and listen to the rules, you're not going to get anywhere. But there are some sins, and the biggest sin in everything that we do is dullness. Because if you, as you've heard all of this week, if you don't think about what your audience care about, if you don't think about how you're going to earn their attention, then what you're going to get back is a bunch of performance data, and you'll go, it didn't quite work, let's see how we can optimize it. The reality of the situation that we're in right now is I could put up a 30-second video of static and get it to 1 million views. That is paid media. What we need to think about is creative effectiveness. What about that transition? And so these are the 10 rules that we got to, thinking about how you can make it super short or super relevant. Just be honest with yourselves. When you think about what you're trying to do with your campaigns, if you're not doing something super short, it should be about trying to get fame because you're trying to be super relevant. Make sure you are actually targeting your target. There's a difference between a media target and a creative target. If anybody has read and listens to Byron Sharp, then you definitely want to be trying to reach all your audience, but that doesn't need to be where your creative bullseye is. Don't forget about the primacy of the idea. A campaign has never been saved by a media plan. Use all that data that you've got to de-risk your campaign. If you're aiming for fame, there's always an element of risk. But think about how you can go, look, 90% of our audience have been watching this video of sneezing pandas. We think putting a sneezing panda in this film is going to be amazing. Find the nuggets that your audience actually care about and are actually sharing. What are the memes and the different things that they're doing? What's the language that they're using online? Because it's very different to what they say in a focus group. Don't try and fill all of that fame-driven campaign with lots of rational messaging. There's other spaces for that. Don't be lazy in thinking, what did we do last time? How can we just optimize it? Approach each campaign with a fresh set of eyes, because otherwise you're just going to fall into that same wind tunnel that everyone else has done. Start thinking about and ask your creative agency, ask your creatives and your planners and your media agency why there aren't more channels on this campaign, on this media plan and on this strategy than just all the standard Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. There is more to the internet. There's other ways to reach people. And just remember that all of this is in a very, very young industry. And if anybody tries to tell you what are the exact rules or what is best practice, it's only best practice for the last 6 months. And that means when you're planning ahead, by the time your campaign has probably come out, it's already too late. That's it. Thank you.